You know, they did a survey of American school children and Chinese school children, and they asked the Chinese school children, which job and which profession would you most like to do when you're older? And the Chinese school children were usually given an example like doctor or engineer or maybe astronaut or something a bit more exciting. And the number one job that all people in the West, the United States, the United Kingdom, that all school children want to do is vlogger or influencer. And the problem with that is as follows. Not many people are genuinely interesting. I think what you're better off doing is living an interesting life and learning some interesting things before you start trying to make online content, because your choices are either you're a man with influence or you're a clown. You can go viral for being a clown, or you can go viral for actually being insightful and knowledgeable and people wanting to listen to what you have to say. If you're 19 years of age, the odds are you don't know anything. I was relatively interesting for a 19-year-old. I had my kickboxing career. I'd read, probably about 1,000 books at that point. I knew a lot of stuff, but I was still infinitesimally less interesting than I am today. What you're better off doing at 19 is going traveling, going backpacking, going hitchhiking, doing some interesting things, doing some dangerous things, doing some things that give you cool stories to tell. Then and only then should you think about making online content and trying to be famous as an influencer or somebody that people on the internet may want to listen to. Because otherwise, no one gives a shit. I always took opportunities to travel and see the world from when I was very, very young. The first trip I ever took without a parent, I was 15 years old, and I went over to The Hague in the Netherlands because I had a friend who lived out there, a guy who I used to work with at the fast food restaurant, funnily enough, and that was the first trip I ever took by myself. I was going to Egypt. I looked at the pyramids when I was 17 and a half, 18. I snuck beer inside one of them actually and sat and drank beer where the sarcophagus was. So maybe that's why maybe the Pharaoh's curse is coming back to haunt me now, and that's why I'll have all these legal problems. But yeah, I snuck a beer inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. I was doing some pretty interesting stuff. I didn't have very high budgets, but I knew not to waste the little money I had on stupid things. Now I buy stupid things, but now I have all the money in the world. And when I'm free to travel again, my life is again going to be very, very interesting. I like to do things that no one else has done. So even as a 19, 20-year-old man, I was a lot more well-traveled than my contemporaries and my friends. I was a lot more knowledgeable about the world. I'd learned different parts of different languages. I'd been to countries that no one really went to, especially back then. I'd been all through Slovakia, Poland, and Eastern Europe at a very young age. And if you spoke to me at 20, or if I were to go online and start speaking, as I did at probably 24, 25, I had some interesting stories, and I was a relatively interesting person. I ran my webcam studio. That's a very interesting thing to talk about, regardless of whether you like it or not. It's one of the reasons myself and my brother took off, because we were the only people who worked inside this industry who were sitting in front of the camera talking about how it works, what the insights are, and we were both professional fighters. We both had our kickboxing careers. We've both been around the world a bit. So even as young men, a lot of people gravitated towards us because we had something interesting to say. If you get a job straight out of high school and you work your job 5 days a week, every single day for 6 or 7 years, and you're 25 and you haven't done anything, don't think about trying to be an online influencer. And this is when you get the very worst of people online, when you don't actually have anything original to say yourself. So what you do is you just regurgitate other people's content. When Andrew first became popular, there was a whole series of Andrew Tate copycats. They'd sit around, they'd try and say the same things, and they try and describe the way Andrew works and the way Andrew lives, and I guess use stolen valor essentially to pretend that they're this insightful man who understands male-female dynamics better than anyone else. But at the end of the day, all of those people have now disappeared. Andrew Tate copycats have disappeared from the internet. Why? Because they weren't authentic. No one gravitated towards them, and they never built a solid following. So you don't have to be like me, and you don't have to be like Andrew, and you don't have to be like Jake Paul. You don't have to be like anyone on the internet. You have to be like you, and you have to think, what is so interesting about you or unique about you that millions of people, or at least thousands of people, are going to think, you know what, I want to hear what this guy has to say. And if you don't have something that you can immediately think of that makes you stand out from the crowd, then I would suggest putting down the camera, putting down your editing software, and going out and exploring and enjoying the world for 2 or 3 years and doing something interesting, learning some interesting facts, getting some interesting stories behind you. Then people might want to listen to you. If you're a 17-year-old kid who lives with your mom and your dad, where do you go? I guess that really depends on which country you're in. And doing dangerous things as a man is a very good way of getting credibility, and it's a very good way of people looking up to you. So when you have very, very low budgets, some of the things that you could do aren't necessarily safe, but as a man, to live an interesting life, we all have to take risks, right? If you live in California, I don't know, hitchhike from California to New York City or to Florida. Try to get somewhere else without any money, without a car of your own. Do something interesting. There was a guy who I still speak about to this day. He rode his bicycle from the Netherlands down to a city in Romania. And I went to meet the guy, and I guess he was quite an interesting person, but that's something no one else had done. He was sleeping under bridges and sleeping under motorway passes in the Romanian forests, which are filled with bears, as you know if you've ever seen any of my footage driving through them. And it was just an interesting thing to do. And I think that that's something that he'll have forever. And it's something that he'll carry around with himself forever. And he'll always have a very interesting story to tell, you know? Go interrailing. Get a backpack, take a train in France, try and get to Moscow, Russia. Do it. There's a guy, famously, maybe the best kid at it, is called Lord Miles. He's a good friend of myself, a good friend of my brother. He went to Afghanistan, got arrested by the Taliban. He went onto Snake Island off the coast of Brazil, where humans aren't allowed to go. And he keeps doing what I guess you could describe as dumb shit. However, for a young man, he's got some of the most interesting stories that I've ever heard. And he has stories that are so cool, I don't have those stories. Why? Because he's taking it to the furthest extremes, which you don't need to do, but you do need to do something interesting. The term influencer is very hard to define. And I massively dislike being referred to as an influencer because I didn't make my money or become successful or become well known because of my antics online. A lot of people start on YouTube, even the biggest YouTubers in the world, they start on YouTube doing stupid dances, doing stupid pranks, doing stupid stunts, and they get more views. And as they get more views, they get more money. They use that money to live a more interesting life. And it's this upward spiral, I guess, in terms of being an influencer. That is their job. I'm not an influencer. I'm a man with influence. I already had money. I already had stories. I already had a successful life. I already had a Lamborghini before I decided to post anything online. I think I bought a Lamborghini only about a year or two after Instagram was even invented. So avoid being a content creator for the sake of being a content creator. When someone asks me, what do I do? And especially when I was younger, I'd say, well, I'm a professional kickboxer. Yes, I make videos on the internet, but I'm a professional kickboxer. Then it was, oh, well, I make videos on the internet, but I run this interesting business. It's a webcam studio. Well, you know, I make videos on the internet, but I run one of the world's largest online universities teaching hundreds of thousands of young men and women how to get rich and how to make money online. I own university.com. Those are my accolades. What do? I'm a car collector. What do you do? I've always got something about me more than just the fact that I make videos online, because I don't need to make videos online, and I don't need to do podcasts, and I don't need to stream, and I don't need to push anything out there in order to live my successful life. In fact, my life would probably be a lot less complicated and a lot simpler if I didn't do these things. But I guess this is my way. As an older man who's taken a bunch of risks when I was younger in the kickboxing ring and going to dangerous places, I guess this is my way of dancing with the devil, if you like. This is my way of walking the tightrope, because I'm very aware that a lot of the stuff, especially my brother says, puts a big target on our backs. It puts a very big target on our backs from some of the world's most powerful people, and they know that millions of young men listen to us, so they want us in jail and they want to put us away. It's interesting and it's fun and it keeps life interesting. I guess that's why I don't quit. But also, I get this weird sense of satisfaction that all the people who send me fan mail that I help, Tristan, you've changed my life. Tristan, I'm fitter, I'm stronger, I'm richer, I'm making a bunch of money in the real world, and it's all because of you. That's something that I wouldn't want to give up either.